Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto and Sasuke was like Hashirama and Madara. Naruto and Sasuke will be strong. Naruto will have a wood release and he is a Senju. Sasuke will, as you all know, an Uchiha. Now let's start the story. Chapter 17 Inches. Damn pervert, scolding me for coming to help him. This selfless personality of yours is gonna get you killed one day. And by extension me. Naruto looked up at Kurama, who was frowning at him from behind the bars. Hey, there's nothing wrong with wanting to help those precious to you, you know. Besides, going after Orochimaru would have been just as dangerous. Yeah, but you work better with the Uchiha. That lowers the risk of a gruesome death, which would involve yours truly. I appreciate your heartfelt concern. Naruto muttered, giving the fox a half-hearted glare, which made Kurama chuckle. Oh, you know me better than that by now, Naruto. It was only spoken in jest, you know. We're in this together, and as much as it pains me to admit it, I'll follow your lead. Naruto, who had already been prepared to offer a retort, was left with his mouth agape, staring at the old fox, who grinned widely at him. Oh ho, finally managed to stump you, did I? The giant fox said with a bark of laughter. Silence has never felt so satisfying. Naruto was prepared to argue with Kurama, to claim that he had only been momentarily stunned, but he honestly didn't feel like it. The fox deserved a win, after all, considering that Naruto couldn't sense a lie in his statement. Hey, Kurama. Naruto asked suddenly, making Kurama raise an eyebrow, which was surprising considering that the fox didn't actually have any eyebrows. The skin above his left eye merely moved up slightly to show that he was curious as to what Naruto was going to say. Why are you so pissed? What? Besides the whole, sealed into people for decades thing, I mean. There must have been a reason why you were sealed up in the first place. I'm guessing you were acting pretty rowdy, huh? TCH. The mention of him being sealed up seemed to have brought a bad memory to the surface, as Kurama laid down and crossed his paws in front of him, glancing to the side. I lost someone. What? I'm not telling more, so don't ask, brat. Kurama barked upon seeing Naruto's shocked expression. You're making me feel like I've gone soft. Sounds rough, Naruto said, ignoring Kurama's outburst as he walked up and leaned against the bars. I kinda know what it's like, since I watched the old man die. I know that rage, so. You know, I want you to know that you're not alone. Kurama's gaze snapped toward Naruto, who was grinning at him. You don't have to go through everything alone, man. I'm here if you ever wanna talk. With that, the blonde faded from view, leaving a stunned Kurama behind. His expression changed to an angry one, since Naruto had disappeared before he could retort, but he soon settled down, and a small grin appeared on his face. Hey, you damn brat. In the real world, Naruto opened his eyes just in time to see Ino pulling her hand away from one of the captured AIM ninjas. That's weird, she muttered, catching the attention of both Naruto and Jiraiya. What's weird? Jiraiya asked, to which Ino frowned. There's a tower to the west, and they think the leader of the Akatsuki, Pain, lives there, but I just don't understand, she muttered. They've been delivering dead bodies to that place for some reason. She raised her hand and cupped her chin in thought. Apparently, legend goes that the tower is where they enshrine the bones of the dead, but there was a woman there to collect the bodies. They called her Tenchi, Angel. You're sounding confused, Naruto said, getting a nod from his girlfriend. I confirmed that Pain lives there, and that he has an accomplice in that blue-haired woman, Ino said, humming. But what do they need the bodies for? I guess there's only one way to find out, Jiraiya said with a shrug, looking to the two Chunin. Right, since you two decided to join me, you're officially under my command on this mission. Our objective is primarily recon, so do not engage the enemy unless absolutely necessary, you understand. These guys are Akatsuki, all S-rank ninja, and the leader is bound to be the strongest of them all. Both Naruto and Ino snapped to attention and went, got it. In unison. Jiraiya nodded in approval, before approaching one of the captured ninja, the one with blonde hair and beard. Alright, we'll be going in through his shadow. Naruto, you're gonna have to help Ino. Naruto raised his hand to grab Jiraiya's attention. Look, I'm here because I disobeyed an order, so I'm gonna need to brief with Sasuke before we leave, just to make sure my team hasn't gotten into trouble for our deception, so I'll be heading off for a while. Jiraiya opened his mouth, probably to object, but then stopped to think about it. He hummed as his gaze went from Naruto to Ino. Then, he gave a nod and said, "Alright, we'll take 10 minutes to prepare and check out supplies. Naruto, you check in with Sasuke, and wait. How are you supposed to do that? Aren't they approaching rice field country?" "Well," Naruto said and reached into his kunai pouch, fishing out a scroll and setting it down on the floor. He unfurled it, showing an amazingly intricate seal drawn on it, and he set his feet on the only 2 blank spots on the scroll. "This is something I designed while you were off playing around in the red light districts on our journey. I've been fine-tuning it since we got back, and I gave Sasuke a matching scroll." He flashed through a series of hand seals, and then called out, "Jikuken ninjutsu, Mizukagami no jutsu, space-time ninja art, water mirror technique." Both Jiraiya and Ino could feel a pulse of energy go through them, but there was no sign of the seal actually working. Jiraiya looked around, then reached up to scratch his head while clearing his throat. "Naruto, I know you've gotten a bit far into your space-time ninjutsu, but I don't think this, Arrow Sennin, don't underestimate me," Naruto told the Sannin with a small grin. "I set this up to be a two-way jutsu. While it's not working now, it will once the other scroll activates, and oh." Naruto cut himself off when something suddenly shimmered into view in front of Naruto, a ghost-like apparition of Uchiha Sasuke, who was standing in the same pose as Naruto. The Uchiha gave a smirk. "I didn't think this thing would actually work," he told Naruto with an echoing voice that sounded like he was speaking from across the other end of a long tunnel. "Well, I guess you called for a status report, and I can tell you Kakashi saw through our rouse the moment we put it on." As expected of Sensei, Naruto muttered with a small grin. "So, what's the backlash going to be like?" "Well, he's not going to scold you personally. We all feel that you did the right thing, but it's his duty to report you for insubordination. But we're hoping that Jiraiya can put in a good word for you and Ino if the mission is a success. If it fails, though, you guys will get thrown to the dogs. Insubordination, desertion. What do you think we'll get for that?" Naruto asked, ignoring the shocked look on Ino's face as Sasuke looked over his shoulder. Only the one standing on the seal could be seen and heard from the other side, but Naruto knew that Kakashi was standing somewhere behind Sasuke, talking to him. After a moment, Sasuke nodded and turned back to Naruto. "In the event of mission failure, we're talking life in prison at best. At worst, they'll charge you for the desertion and cut your heads off. Nothing we didn't anticipate, though. And we're in it now, so might as well roll with it, yeah." "True enough," Sasuke said with a nod. "So, I was thinking about a new jutsu that we should practice when we get back to the village," Naruto continued. "It's going to be one hell of a jutsu, and it's not even fully developed yet, but if it succeeds." He gave a small whistle. "Damn, man, we'll be unstoppable." "Now you've got me curious," Sasuke said, crossing his arms. "What is it?" "Well, I guess you'd better pray that I survive long enough to tell you, eh?" "You're an ass," was Sasuke's response. There was a moment of silence, then Sasuke nodded. "Good luck." "Yeah, likewise." With that, Sasuke stepped off his scroll and vanished from view. Naruto did the same and rolled the scroll up, replacing it in his kunai pouch. Could we really get executed for doing this?" Ino asked. "You're not getting cold feet, are you?" Naruto asked, putting an arm around her shoulder. "Don't worry. That's only if we fail the mission, which we won't. We're in it this far," Ino said, leaning into Naruto with a small sigh. "I guess we can't exactly back out now." A toad poked its head out of the water at the outskirts of AIM. Its mouth opened and expanded greatly, allowing a full-grown man to crawl out of it, the same man who had been mentally interrogated by Yamanaka Ino. As he stood up, he looked to the toad. "Hurry back to Konoha," he told the toad. "Find Ibiki. He'll know how to handle that guy." Jiraiya wasn't great at genjutsu, but he knew how to manipulate chakra. By hiding in the shadow of this man, he could control the victim's movements. It came at a cost, however. The user had to hold his breath throughout the entire technique. Thankfully, anyone who rode along with it had no such requirement, so Naruto and Ino didn't need to do so. Jiraiya had used this enough times to be able to hold his breath for a disturbingly long time. In fact, he managed to make it from the outskirts of the village to the tower Ino had pointed out without showing any sign of discomfort, which was very admirable. The space in the shadow where the three were hidden was sort of like a pocket dimension. They could all see each other, as though they were simply laying down on a floor next to each other. While the jutsu somewhat dampened his sensory skills, Naruto could still sense someone watching the ninja as he entered the tower. He nudged his teacher with a frown. Someone knows we're here. Jiraiya had to hold his breath, so he couldn't speak, but he still glanced at Naruto and nodded in agreement. The ninja made his way into a large, open room, and his eyes widened when he saw a large amount of square pieces of paper flying around it as though caught in a whirlwind. The papers charged at the ninja and covered him from head to toe. In front of him, a blue-haired woman wearing an Akatsuki coat materialized, a spear made of paper in her hands and an origami flower in her hair. She raised the spear and made to stab it, but at that moment Jiraiya poked his head out of the ninja's shadow, his cheeks puffing out. He spewed a stream of fire out of his mouth, impacting with the woman. She was seemingly killed, but revealed herself to have used a paper kawarimi, as she appeared some distance away, materializing herself through stray pieces of paper. That could only be your Gamadara, Kujayatsuri no Jutsu, toad flatness, shadow manipulation technique, the woman said in a sort of monotone voice as she watched Jiraiya rising from the shadow of the ninja. Her eyes widened, however, when Ino and Naruto climbed out after him. The Kyuubi, she muttered softly. I cast the bait hoping to land this, pain guy. Who'd have known I'd end up with you instead? Jiraiya said, a small grin on his face as he watched the half-materialized woman. Konan, you've improved your jutsu, and grown into one hell of a woman. I always thought you were dead. But all this time, you were just a bunch of paper scattered into the wind. The ninja, who had now regained control of himself, stared at the woman, Konan, in shock. Ah, you're Tenshi. Now you're an angel, Konan. Jiraiya asked in amusement. God's messenger, as it were. This guy's an intruder, the AIM ninja barked as he ran off in a panic. You must kill him, quickly. I take it you two know each other. Naruto asked, ignoring the AIM ninja and gesturing between Konan and Jiraiya. Well, I spent some time teaching her and two other brats way back when. Didn't think any of them would join a group like Akatsuki, though, Jiraiya explained, then looked to Konan again. Now, who or what is Pain? You don't need to know, sensei, Konan said as more paper sprouted from behind her, forming a pair of wings sprouting from her shoulder blades, something which made Jiraiya scoff. You really do think yourself an angel, don't you? I must kill you, Konan said, refusing to answer. That is the will of God. Boy, she sounds kinda like a fanatic, doesn't she? Naruto quipped, watching as Konan's eyes widened in focus, and a hail of papers shaped like knives was sent flying at them. Naruto quickly flipped through a set of hand seals and planted his hands to the ground, causing a wall of what looked like concrete to shoot up and block the blades, keeping him, Ino, and Jiraiya from harm. Jiraiya immediately jumped up over the wall and spat a great stream of oil at Konan. She didn't have any time to react, and instead just reached up and covered her face as it hit her. It only took a second for her to look over her body and realize what had happened. Your paper can't unfold if it's soaked in oil, Jiraiya said as he stood on the wall, his hair extending and snaking out toward Konan, wrapping around her. You always did love your origami. I remember, you were the kindest one of all the kids. Konan didn't reply, instead merely staring at Jiraiya, and when Naruto let the wall sink back into the ground, he noticed that she had sort of a mournful look in her eyes. What happened to the other two? The rumors that they're dead are lies as well, aren't they? Jiraiya asked, and when Konan yet again refused to answer, instead just dropping her gaze to the ground, Jiraiya sighed. I knew it. Pain is one of them as well, isn't he? Before Konan could speak again, Naruto walked up and nudged Jiraiya with his elbow. Oi, I'm sensing some really creepy chakra approaching. If you wanna question her, we should just take her and bring her back to Konoha. True enough, Jiraiya said, looking up at Konan again. You know, a few years after I left, I started hearing your names come up occasionally. Any time there was trouble, whoever opposed your side would wind up dead. You have no idea what happened to us after you left, sensei, Konan said, her tone never faltering, though there certainly was something scathing in her look. You're absolutely right, I don't. But there's no doubt in my mind that what Akatsuki is doing is wrong. Well, that's your opinion. Jiraiya sensei. The three Konoha ninja went wide-eyed at the new voice and looked up above Konan. There, standing on a couple of pipes that were sticking out of the wall, stood an orange-haired man wearing an Akatsuki cloak. He sort of looked like a Yamanaka with his ponytail and the bang hanging out from over his Hitai. He had black piercings all over his face, and his eyes had no iris. Instead, the pupil was surrounded by 5 circles, like ripples in water. He was wearing an aim Hitai with a slash through it, and thick, black eyeliner. How the crap? Naruto barked, his eyes widening even further. I only just sensed him approaching. Jiraiya seemed to be ignoring him, instead just looking up at the new arrival. You've changed a lot, but those eyes. So, your pain, eh, Nagato? He spoke up, no longer smiling at all. I guess you didn't grow up like I'd hoped you would. What happened to you three? There is no need for you to know, Pain said. You're just an outsider, remember? Now, I will have the Kyuubi. Usually, this would have been the point where Naruto would have given a smartass comeback, but at present he was busy closing his eyes and reaching out with his sensory skills, to see if there were any other rogue elements that might make a surprise appearance. His eyes widened when he discovered something, and he nudged Jiraiya again. Hey, let her go, pull your hair back. What? Jiraiya asked, snapping his gaze toward Naruto, who was looking unusually serious. Just do it. Jiraiya looked a bit confused, but nonetheless did as he was told. His hair released its hold on Konan and retracted, and Naruto stepped up to give Pain a wave. Right, well, as much as we'd love to stay and chat, we have other appointments. You won't be going anywhere. Pain stopped speaking when Naruto suddenly turned around and put a hand on Jiraiya and Ino's shoulders, and then disappeared in a blur. The Akatsuki leader stared at the spot where they had once stood, narrowing his eyes slightly to see if the intruders were anywhere else inside AIM. I wasn't expecting that, he admitted. Naruto, Ino, and Jiraiya appeared in a blur in the wetlands outside Omegakure. As soon as they did, Jiraiya and Ino immediately fell to their knees, and Naruto hunched over, looking a bit queasy. The other two didn't simply look queasy. They were quick to empty the contents of their stomachs, vomiting without any shame. Ah, I hate doing that. Naruto muttered, panting softly. What the hell did you? Jiraiya swallowed his queasiness as he glared up at Naruto. What did you just do? Call it Shunken Ido, instantaneous movement. Naruto said, sighing. It's a move I developed to prepare for the Hiraishin no Jutsu. It's unrefined and drains a disturbing amount of chakra, but I felt it was worth it this time. Why the hell did you do that? Jiraiya asked, recovering quickly, as expected of a veteran ninja, as he got to his feet and glared at Naruto. Hell, boy, we had the leader of the Akatsuki right there. We could have ended their threat right away. No, we couldn't. Jiraiya flinched. It was mostly because he had never seen Naruto speak with such a serious look on his face before. And Naruto was the type of kid who gave it his all until he could fight no more. For him to say it was impossible without even trying. That guy was a freak. I mean to the point where Orochimaru looks tame, Naruto extrapolated, staring seriously at Jiraiya. His chakra was intense. Not only that, but I sensed 5 other presences approaching. There was no victory to be had back there. For Konoha, it's sometimes worth it to risk your life, Jiraiya argued. If we had managed to land a crippling blow to Akatsu, but we wouldn't have. Naruto interrupted with an angry bark. We would have been slaughtered. Well, you would have been. I would have been knocked out, and Kurama would have been extracted from me. And I'll be damned before I let Ino get killed just because you want to go out in a blaze of glory. While Ino, who had just recovered from the ordeal, looked flattered and made to speak up, Jiraiya spoke before she could. And how the hell do you know that if you don't even try? It should tell you quite a bit. Naruto barked back, glaring at him. Sensei, he said, making Jiraiya's eyes widen, as Naruto had never called him that before, you know me. I never back down from a fight if there's even the slightest chance I can win. I saw no such chance here. There was something really freaky about that guy and his reinforcements. That's unlike you, Naruto, Ino spoke up finally, giving him a surprised look. Aren't you usually gung-ho and damn the consequences? If we had the rest of Team 7 to back us up, I wouldn't hesitate, but just us. That's not enough against this guy. His eyes didn't just look strange. They felt strange, too. Rinnegan, Jiraiya said, getting curious looks from Naruto and Ino. It's the greatest of the 3 Dujutsu, and is said to have been sent down from the heavens themselves. But, that's just a myth, isn't it? Ino asked, her eyes widening in amazement. It's not supposed to be real. And yet there it was, Jiraiya muttered, crossing his arms. Alright, we at least managed to put a face on the leader of the Akatsuki, and the names. It's better than nothing, I suppose. Let's get this information back too. He stopped suddenly when someone landed in front of them, the spiky-haired leader of the Akatsuki himself. He was giving them an emotionless look, the Rinnegan somewhat unnerving Naruto. That was a surprise, but there is no escaping, Kyuubi, Pain said, making Naruto's eyes widen. Shit, the blonde muttered, before quickly biting his thumb and flashing through hand seals. Kuchio's no jutsu. In an explosion of smoke, a very tall toad appeared, heavily armored. It was the same toad that had blocked Samehada's swing all those years ago. Gamata, Naruto said, jerking his head toward Ino. Get her to Konoha at top speed. Wait, what? Ino barked. No, I'm staying. This guy is way out of your league, Naruto said, an unusually serious expression on his face. Probably out of ours as well. You'll be pulverized. Gamata. Right, the toad barked, picking up the protesting Ino, before tensing his legs and shooting off at an insane speed. You should have gone with her, Jiraiya said, which made Naruto scoff. I came here to make sure you don't die. Kinda counterproductive if I leave now, isn't it? Kyuubi, Pain spoke up, having allowed Ino to escape without a fuss. His priority was Naruto, after all. Come quietly. Jiraiya-sensei, don't put up a fuss. Were you really expecting us to just comply? Naruto asked, getting into a ready stance. Why don't you bring the other 5 out of hiding? You noticed, Pain spoke, and as if on cue, 5 other men jumped out of the waters surrounding them, all of them with orange hair, black piercings, and wearing Akatsuki coats. As you can see, there is no way for you to win. You certainly have changed, Nagato, Jiraiya said, but the Akatsuki didn't answer. Instead, the one of the 6 with hair like Ino clapped his hands together. Kuchio's no jutsu. Behind him, there was an explosion of smoke. Out of the smoke came a giant crab creature, bounding over the Akatsuki leader toward Naruto and Jiraiya. They could hear it sucking in a deep, clicking breath, before it spewed a large amount of bubbling water at them. The spray forced Naruto and Jiraiya to jump to either side, separating. Naruto. Jiraiya barked, and Naruto grinned slightly as he landed in a crouch. Got it. The blonde exclaimed as he shot off like a rocket, smashing into the crab and knocking it onto its back. Kneeling on it, Naruto did something only he could do. He launched a series of 50 rapid punches so fast that the naked eye couldn't follow them, slamming them all into the crab with enough force to dig its back deeply into the dirt, its carapace breaking and splintering. At the last punch, it was no longer moving. Naruto backflipped away just in time for the crab to disappear in another explosion of smoke. He twisted in midair, noticing another one of the peens because they had to all be Pain, sharing the same chakra and all, a tall guy with a very creepy smile on his face, raise his hand in a fist, pointing it at him. With a flash of flame, the hand detached itself from the arm and flew at Naruto like a rocket. Naruto's own hand rose to intercept it, grabbing it in midair by the wrist and changing its angle of approach, causing him to spin like a top in midair several times, before finally letting go and returning it straight back to the sender. If that Pain was surprised by this, he didn't show it, still that smile on his face, and he simply ducked to avoid the rocket fist. As soon as he landed, Naruto was forced to avoid a deadly kick to the head from a large, burly-looking Pain, then a punch from a fat one. Ducking under another punch, Naruto flashed through hand seals and whipped his head around toward the burly one, his cheeks puffing out. A ball of compressed air smashed into Pain, who was sent flying, still with that emotionless expression. Was it completely impossible to surprise these guys? In any case, he spun around and sent another ball at the fat one, who stood his ground. Naruto was incredibly surprised when he saw that his jutsu had no effect on the guy. In that case, Naruto growled, forming a Rasengan in his hand. He charged at the man and thrust the ball into his chest, only to find his Rasengan disappearing in an instant, and he found himself pressing an empty palm into the fat Pain's chest. What? The blonde was distracted for a second by a shockwave coming from some distance away, and he turned his head to see Jiraiya get sent flying by an invisible force as he charged at the spiky-haired Pain. This was all the fat one needed to lock his arms around Naruto's own. What the? Naruto muttered. He made to rip this man's arms off, but he suddenly felt himself going weaker. Wait. What the hell was this? His eyes widened. He's absorbing my chakra. Naruto struggled more. Even his impressive physical strength was useless if he couldn't muster the energy to use it. Then, an idea popped into his head. His legs were still free. With a furious yell, Naruto drove his knee straight up into the fat pain's soft parts between his legs. Finally, he got a reaction. The fat pain's eyes bulged slightly, and he let out an oomph of pain, his grip on Naruto loosening enough for the blonde to break free. Naruto took a step back, giving himself a second to recover his energy, and then growled. Get fucked, he barked at the fat pain, before delivering another kick to the man's nether region. This time, it was with his full physical strength, powered by chakra. No doubt the man was too distracted to focus on absorbing it. The kick hit its mark, and Naruto was treated to the sight of a fat Akatsuki shooting straight up into the sky like a rocket. Naruto was wondering why the strange hand-launching guy hadn't attacked yet, and his answer came in the form of an explosion of smoke from the Ino lookalike. The ground shook, and out of the smoke came a massive rhino, its eyes bearing the telltale marks of the Rinnegan. Naruto, however, had recovered his strength, and this was his territory more than anything. Roaring, he charged at the rhino. They impacted with each other, an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. The shockwave was enough to send the other Peens and Jiraiya stumbling slightly, and then Naruto grabbed the rhino by its lower jaw. What followed next was impressive, even Pain had to admit that. Naruto hoisted the rhino into the air, vaulting it over him, and slamming it down onto the hand-launching Pain. There was no doubt in Pain's mind that the Asura path would have a difficult time recovering from that without the Naraka path, and the Naraka path had been long since blown away. And the Preta path was still maintaining its unscheduled flight. The spiky-haired Diva path stopped to consider for a moment, batting away a barrage of fire from Jiraiya with his Shinra Tensei almighty push. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki has become quite strong in these last few years. It was only him, the human path, and the animal path left. And the human path was practically worthless in combat. Perhaps it would be prudent to come up with a proper strategy against this child. We leave, the Diva path said, making Jiraiya's eyes widen. He made to jump away, but wood suddenly burst from the ground, wrapping around Deva's arms and legs, tying him to the spot. Some distance away, Naruto was kneeling with his hands against the ground. Oh no, you don't. Naruto said, grinning. Arrow Sennin. On it. Jiraiya yelled back, charging up a Rasengan and rushing at the Diva path, only for his eyes to widen as he was blown back yet again by an invisible force, the wood restraining Pain shattering and sending splinters flying everywhere. Consider this your victory, Kyuubi, Diva said, turning his head to look at Naruto. However, we will meet again. With that, the three remaining Peens disappeared in blurs, making Naruto grit his teeth. Wait Naruto, Jiraiya said, stopping Naruto in his tracks as the blonde made to follow. No doubt he retreated to think of a strategy against you. We should do the same. But we had him on the ropes. Naruto yelled. He was nowhere near as dangerous as I thought he was. He underestimated you, Jiraiya countered. The fact that he's retreating means he won't make that mistake again. Let's take this victory and get back to Konoha with as much information as we can. The toppled rhino disappeared with a poof of smoke, revealing the smashed Pain underneath it. Its body looked completely mechanical, almost like a puppet. We'll be bringing him as well, Jiraiya said, nodding toward the corpse. Fine. Naruto muttered, cracking his knuckles. I barely even got to use my jutsu, though. You were really scared of him back there, yet now you're itching for a fight. Jiraiya asked in surprise, which made Naruto chuckle, sounding slightly embarrassed as he scratched the back of his head. Well, his chakra just felt weird back there. I've never sensed something like that before, but when I found out he can break same as any other man, that kinda lowered the fear factor a bit. Jiraiya stared at Naruto for a moment, then sighed with a small smile on his face. Put him in a fight, and no amount of fear would stop him from fighting. Well, maybe that never give up attitude was what made him so damn lovable. Button hook entry, as always. Understood. Kakashi was kneeling on one side of the door to the throne room of the underground bunker, while Sasuke and Hinata knelt on the other side. Sasuke reached up and placed an exploding tag on the door. They were still for a moment, then Kakashi nodded to Sasuke, who detonated it. The door was blown inward off its hinges, and the three ninja darted inside, ready to face whatever dangers were there. He's gone. Sasuke concluded as the smoke cleared, revealing the empty room. It was dark, and any traces of Orochimaru's scent were old enough to reveal that the snake hadn't been there for at least a week. Another one down, Hinata mumbled with a disappointed sigh. This is the fourth hideout, Sasuke grunted, giving Kakashi a small glare. Is it safe to call this mission a failure yet? Yeah, Kakashi muttered with a sigh, running a hand through his hair. I think it's safe to call it that. Let's hope Naruto had better luck. Alright, chapter complete. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I would be pleased as punch if you left a review and a like at the door. Peace. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.